My mother was practically born in a cotton patch. Her family worked on the plantation of Wolaver and Leona Harris in upstate Texas. They had no children in their house. They had a beautiful white Victorian house with dove gray carpets and beautiful sofas. It's very quiet there because there were no children. Mrs. Harris had had a child once, but it was stillborn. And so this elegant woman of means had no child until one August afternoon in this little clapboard shack down the lane from her white Victorian house, the cries of a newborn baby girl filled the air. My mother had been born. Well, Leona Harris found her baby in my mother. My mother was a docile little girl and really beautiful, and Leona Harris pulled her in the afternoons out of the cotton patch into her Victorian world. She had an ebony grand piano, and she would, in the afternoons, pull up a little ladder-back chair right beside the grand piano and set my mother on it, and then she would play for her. And that was my mother's first exposure, up close and personal, to music. And it was as if she reached into her heart and flipped on the switch. The light came on. And my mother's heart burned for musical opportunity. And I feel so sorry for her, in that if there was ever a young woman that should have had vast opportunity, that should have had parents that cared, and yet there was Annie Moses working a cotton patch. How do you deal with that? Leona Harris became my mother's first patron of the arts. Time went by, and Leona Harris sort of moved out of my mother's life as her family went on to other things. And when my mother was in middle school, she happened upon another woman that impacted her life greatly, Miss Francis, Miss Mady Francis. Miss Francis was a sickly woman. She was nearly blind. Her eyelids fluttered continuously. She never married, never had any children, but she came to my mother's high school to teach music. And Annie Moses at the time had gotten a job as a chef at the school, and so my mother was able to study for 1 year while Mrs. Francis' health allowed her to teach. My mother studied music with Miss Francis. So she studied piano, and then when Miss Francis found out how well she could sing, she added singing to that. At the end of the year, she was able to participate in a big recital, and everybody in the city of Chambersville found out that Jane could really sing and really play, and it was a delightful time in my mother's life, but it was over with that year, and then it sort of faded. And yet my mother's heart really burned for musical opportunities and artistic development. So when me and my sisters began to play and to sing, and she was able to invest in us to the best of her ability, it was really a magical thing in her life to see us blossom. And I think it was watching her and the joy she found in our flourishing that made me realize that this is what I wanted for my children, to flourish. And if there's anything that I love about what our family does, it is that it inspires parents as to the potential within their child.